we were talking about the reason or the rationale behind the M&A, and we also compared the cash acquisitions versus stock acquisitions. So this is about the negotiation. And then we moved on and we talked about the takeover tactics, because we can be in a friendly mergers and acquisitions where the target company's management team is agreeing on the term. However, sometimes we have hostile takeovers in which that the management, from the perspective of the existing managers, they don't want to have such merger. So in that case, if you are trying to acquire the company, then you may need to utilize some of the tactics to make him enter the negotiation room to sit on the table. So this is about it. So we are going to learn specifically about the tender offers. So what is tender offer? A tender offer is that you are going to make a huge announcement, not to the manager, but you are going to make an announcement toward the target company's shareholders. So you are saying, you are making an advertisement that I'm collecting the shares of the company because I'm intending to buy your company. So you announce your price and you announce the period to buy the shares. And then some shareholders will feel that this offer is favorable for them, so they are going to accept it. By doing so, you can get sufficient number of shares to kick the existing manager out of the company, say 50%. Because in the shareholders meeting, generally you need to be approved by 50% of the shareholders if you want to hire or if you want to fire the new CEO or the existing CEO. So this way is one way to go through the mergers and acquisitions, even if the target company's management team does not want to be acquired, because you can directly contact with the shareholders. And it also shortens the time required to the completion of the acquisition, because generally you need to convince the shareholders and you need to have some negotiations, and it takes a lot of time. However, in this tender offer, you announce the price, you announce the desired number of shares, and you announce the period, the deadline, and that's all. And when the deadline approaches, you will get your results. So it can be completed in a relatively short period of time. And also, one more advantage is that you can cancel. So the typical tender offer sets the goal of this tender offer. So how many shares you want to have. And you can see what the shareholders are responding. So if the shareholders are saying that, okay, I'm going to sell my shares to you, and if it is sufficient, then you can proceed. On the other hand, if they are not adhering, so if they are not responding, then you can just cancel it. And that is an advantage, because without this, maybe you have to buy the shares yourself from the market, and then if you do not want to continue, then you need to sell it back. So it actually reduces the efforts to take care of the rest of the shares that you don't need. However, there are also the disadvantages. So if you announce the tender offer, it means that you are going to ignore the current manager. So actually, it will make him angry, or it will make her angry. So she would now confront you, and she will oppose you whatever happens. So actually it may makes the problem even worse. And at the same time, if you are going to convince the shareholders, then you need to provide sufficient premium. So maybe the prices will go up. So that happens frequently. So another disadvantage is that maybe the third company comes and I'm also interested in buying this company. So this happens a lot in the reality. So maybe some international students may be interested in the K-pop or not, but in Korea we have a famous media entertainment company named SM Entertainment. So SM Entertainment became the target of the acquisition recently, about 1.5 years ago. And first, initially, Hive approach, which is a company taking care of the BTS, and it wanted to acquire the SM Entertainment, but suddenly when it entered the tender offer, another company approached, which is a Kakao Entertainment. So these two companies compete each other, and they had to set higher tender offer prices again and again because shareholders can look at both of the offers and will choose the highest prices. So it actually resulted in a very, very extremely high price for the SM Entertainment shares. So actually, both of the company, although the winner was the Kakao Entertainment, now it is in the trouble because it had to pay a lot compared to what they have expected. And at the same time, they wanted to win this competition with the Hive, so they were making illegal things, and now they are in charge of this in the court. So maybe the Kakao Entertainment will lose the SM Entertainment by the decision of the court. So the tender offers has the pros and the cons. So it can make it easier to acquire, but at the same time, it make another trouble. But anyway, if you compare the tender offers with just usual market purchases of the shares, so we can see the advantages much more clearly. So when, let's say, you don't want to reveal your purpose and you are just buying the shares in the stock market, these are the open market purchases. And in that case, first, you can buy the shares when some shareholders are selling shares. So if there is no counterparty, you cannot have the contract. So there should be some supply of the shares. And at the same time, the price will be determined by the market. So it will be affected by the supply and the demand effects. So maybe it can be higher than you expected, or it can be lower than you expected. So it changes during the time. So you have uncertainty. However, in the tender offer, you specify your price. So therefore, this is a fixed, so there is no uncertainty regarding the price issue. And second, it can take long because if there is no shareholders who are selling, then you need to wait. However, by announcing the tender offer, now some shareholders might be interested in this, so they are going to accept this offer. So it can bring them to the table. So it can be accomplished much more fastly. And third, if you purchase the shares from the market, so let's say you have right now 5% of the total number of shares. Then suddenly the things have changed and you are no longer interested in this merger. Then maybe you have to sell it back, and this is a burden because maybe the price can be different from the time that you bought these shares. So maybe you will lose some of the money. However, in the tender offer, you can just wait to see whether sufficient number of shares are collected, and then you decide. So you can just quick it. You can just cancel the total transaction. So the results of the tender offer could be successful or fail, either one of them. You don't have any mediocre things happen. However, in the open market purchases, maybe you will result in some nuanced situations that you have to take care about the rest of the shares you are left with. So that's the another advantage of the take tender offers. And another way is that you don't buy the shares directly, however, you get your friends. This is called as proxy fight. So the proxy contest or the fight is to show your power in the shareholders meeting. So usually for a company, it will have the shareholders meeting annually. So maybe they will meet on the March generally to take care about the major issues. For example, recruiting new board of the directors, recruiting or firing the existing or the new CEO. So these important matters are dealt in the shareholders meeting, and you are going to go to the shareholders meeting and you will show your power. So this is a proxy fight. And maybe you don't have only 10% of the shares. However, maybe you can ask other shareholders to help me. So they will just agree on the matters, whatever your stance is. So that's the proxy. So the proxy is a will of the shareholder that he will use his voting power for a specific person. So if you collect sufficient proxies, then you can win this battle. So you can choose the future direction of the company. So maybe you have to call other shareholders, or you have to mail, or you have to send some postcards to be approved by other shareholders. And if they give you the proxies, then you can go to the shareholders meeting, and maybe you can appoint a director, or you can oppose the management proposal, or you can pass your own proposal. For example, eliminating some defensive measures in the corporate charter. So here we have a new term called the corporate charter. So the corporate charter or the certificate of the incorporation So this is a document, but binding for the company's management. So this is similar to to a country's constitution. So the Republic of Korea has its own constitution, which is passed by the congressmen, politicians in Yeouido, and it will dictate the future directions of the country. Similarly, the certificate of the incorporation or the corporate charter dictates what you can do and what you cannot do in the corporation. So this is similar to the constitutional law. So changing this should be approved by the significant number of shareholders. And in the shareholders meeting, you can use your voting powers to change the corporate charter as you want. So let me just skip this. So the major way of offending the company when you are facing a hostile management, and if you want to go through the merger as you want, the major way is to rely on the tender offer. However, you should understand that the main goal of the tender offer is not to get the majority of the shares by the tender offer itself. So the seemingly the tender offer's goal or the objective is to collect the shareholders' shares 50%. However, this may not be true actually, because you are leveraging the tender offer as your strategy. So you are saying that, hey, if you do not agree or if you do not want to negotiate, then I have no choice but to declare tender offer. So it will make the hostile managers to come to your table to start negotiation, because they don't want to make it loudly. So they want to make it quiet. So if the problem goes out, then shareholders will know about this. So it will be much more trouble. So they just want to start negotiation when you try to threat the managers by saying that I have a choice of the tender offer. So actually, in many ways, in many cases, tender offer is not initiated. Rather, it will help, the existence of the tender offer helps you make a negotiation with the two companies' managers. And the last topic is the anti-takeover defenses. So the first principle, so you should understand this. So what I'm saying again and again is that usually mergers and acquisitions are good. Mergers and acquisitions increase the stock price. Mergers and acquisitions create synergies, so it will benefit the shareholders, not only the acquiring company's shareholders, but also the target company's shareholders. So whenever we see more and more M&As, this is good for our economy. However, for the specific group of shareholders, this may not be true, which are the managers, the CEOs, or the controlling shareholders. They will lose their jobs. They are going to be fired, so they should find another job somewhere else after the merger. So this makes some incentives to defend their own company from outside threat. So I'm going to talk about the ways to protect your company. So it is better to be prepared before it comes, so we can make some preemptive strategies. So we can try not to have such situations before it comes. The first way to do it is known as the poison pill. So the poison pill is a pill that you take, and this is filled with some poison, so it will result in your death or your hospitality. So the poison pill is typically used in this kind of situations. So when some hostile acquirer approaches, then you commit this poison pill and you lower the company's value. So the acquirer will lose the interest in this company and just leave. So the way to do it typically is related to the right to issue new shares. So let me show how it works. So let's say there is a company which has a poison pill in the corporate charter, and it approves that the poison pill can be activated in certain situations when someone is having more than 20% of the total shares. Then any shareholder can give $60 to the company and get new 12 shares. So these 12 new shares are now newly made, so it increases the number of shares. And let's say there is a hostile acquirer as concerned, and currently the stock price is $10 per share, and current number of shares is 1,000, and he has 200 shares. And the rest of the shareholders have the right to activate it. So technically, they can make new shares, which is 800 times 12. So they can make new shares of 9,600, which means the new number of shares will be about approximately 10 times larger compared to the original ones. And they are going to pay, each of them, they are going to pay $60. So the existing market value of equity was $10 per share, and it had 1,000 shares. So therefore, this is the previous market value of equity, and now the company gets $60 for each of 800 shares. So the market value of equity becomes $58,000, and then it will affect the stock price. Although there is an increase in the market value, the number of shares that is increasing, this is too much. So if you calculate the stock price will become only about $5.5. So previously the stock price was $10, but now it is about 5. So you lose half of the prices, right? So the rate of return is about minus 50%. So it is a disaster for the hostile acquirer, because first they lose the value. Their wealth is coming from the stock price, and actually they are suffering from a very extremely negative rate of return. And second, their ownership shrinks, so they experience the delusion. So it seemed that before the activation, they had 20%. However, now the number of shares is about 10 times larger. So they are now only going to have only about 2% of the total shares. So they need another 48% of the shares, which seems impossible. So in this way, the poison pill protects the company from the hostile takeover. And the second way is to have staggered board. So to understand the staggered board, we need to understand the role of the board of directors. So usually when there is an acquiring company, he approaches the manager or the CEO, and the manager will look at the contracts and the details about the potential merger, and he will go to the board of directors. And in the board of directors, the directors are going to discuss this matter, and they need some conclusion, and if they feel that this acquisition is good, then they are going to have the shareholders meeting, and they are going to report it to the general shareholders. And if the majority of the shareholders accept this, then this acquisition can be done. So from the point of view of the acquiring company, you have three steps: the executive, the directors, and the shareholders. So this is the reason why it takes so much time. And here the board of directors is very important because they suggest some guidelines to the shareholders, what they think about this matter. So actually, if you control the board of directors, and things become much more clear and it becomes much more easy. So this is important for the acquiring company to take control of the board. And here comes the matter of the staggered board. So let's say this company, the target company, has 6 directors. So director 1, director 2, director 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's say this is 2024, 2025, 2026, and 2027. Without the staggered board, in this company, the shareholders recruit and appoint the directors together. So the director 1 will start his tenure in 2024 and it ends in 2027 when he has a 3-year contract. And the second director also the same. Third, fourth, fifth, and sixth director all the same. Then let's say you are trying to acquire this company, so you suddenly became the shareholders in around 2025. So you became the shareholders in 2025. However, if you want to recruit or appoint your own director who are going to be on your side in the board, then you have to wait until 2027. However, if you wait 2 years, then maybe you can recruit your own director. So by changing the composition of the board, now you are going to make them all of your friends, so you can finally go to the M&A. So this is the situation without the staggered board. However, when there is a staggered board, things are slightly different. So there are again 6 members in the board, and 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027, the first and the second director will start their contract in 2024 and it will continue until 2027. So 3-year contract. But the third and the fourth director, they start their contract in here and will continue to 2028. And fourth director, the same. But the fifth and the sixth directors, they start their career in 2026 and they take the role by 2029. So this is the typical staggered board structure. And therefore, if you recently became the shareholder and if you can appoint your own representing director, then you can replace the first and the second director starting in 2027. However, you have to wait for the third and the fourth director more years to replace them, and you need to wait longer for the last 2 directors. So it let you to wait for about 3 years to fully control the board of the target. So that is the impact of the staggered board. So when you are facing hostile takeover, and they are going to try to get the control in the board by appointing their representative people inside the board, and then you can delay it by having the staggered board. And furthermore, the staggered board and the poison pill, they have their synergies. So poison pill is written in corporate charter. So if you want to remove it, you need to control the board of directors, and the board of directors get suggest this matter into the shareholders meeting, and the shareholders vote whether or not to eliminate this. So in order to eliminate the poison pill, you need to get the control of the board. However, when at the same time, when this company also has the staggered board, this is not possible. So the two combined actually prohibit any kind of hostile takeover. So statistically, in 2001, so this is a statistics from S&P 2,500 companies. So among the 2,500 companies, about 2,200 companies had poison pill in the beginning of 2001. And at the same time, this is statistics from S&P 1000. So among the 1,000 companies in 2001, 900 companies had staggered board. So it seems that in the early 2000s, many US companies had both poison pill and the staggered board together. And they were enjoying it because they can be protected by outside threat. However, let's go back to the major argument. The M&A is good for the shareholders. M&A can be bad for the manager. So when you have staggered board and the poison pill, this is only good for the managers. This is not good for the shareholders. So many institutional investors as well as the ISS. So this is an institution that recommend the shareholders' actions in their shareholders meeting. So they recommended that shareholders need to disapprove the poison pill and the staggered board. They need to eliminate in their corporate charters because that will be the way to improve the shareholders' wealth. So through this campaign, the US companies started to remove the poison pill as well as the staggered board. So nowadays, the number of companies with the poison pill and the staggered board is lower than the majority. So we can see that US economy is changing toward more competition among the managers. So this is actually helping the shareholders, but the removing of these barriers. And the third one is the supermajority voting. So this is very simple. So usually in the shareholders meeting, you may not be able to get 100% agreed by your shareholders. However, generally, if you have 51% approval, then you can pass your change. So you can adjust your corporate charter, you can appoint a new director, you can appoint a new CEO once you get the 51% approval by the shareholders. However, sometimes some companies think that 51% is not enough because it is ignoring 49% of the shareholders. So in that case, they may explicitly state that we need about 60% approval or 80% approval. So this is called supermajority voting. So a company may require about 2 of the third approval for the acquisition. In that case, you should increase the number of shares that you have in order to get the M&A. So it will also make the hostile takeovers to be hesitated. So this is a way to protect the existing managers also. And another important topic for the protection is the dual class shares. So the dual class shares are frequent in the European countries. So maybe international students from the Europe may be familiar with. However, this is rare in Korea. So let me explain about this. So in the dual class share structure, we have 2 different common stock. Class A common stock. So this is an example. So the real name can be different, but typically we have Class A common stock and Class B common stock together. So we have 2 different types of common stock in a single company. And the Class A common stock has 1 share, 1 vote rule. And for the Class B common stock, it may have 1 share, 10 votes. So the only difference between these 2 is that they have different voting powers. And let me see the effect of this. So let's say there is a controlling shareholder who is CEO and the shareholder together. So he is at the same time CEO and he has the shares. And there are other shareholders. So let's say there is a fund A, and there is some rich guy, and there are other shareholders. And let's say the controlling shareholder has 100 shares, and the fund A has, say, 500 shares, and this guy has about 300 shares, and other shareholders are in aggregate they have 100 shares. So in total they have 1,000 shares in this company. So in this situation, we can calculate the ownership ratio. So the controlling shareholder's ownership is 100 over 1,000. So this is 10%. And it has 50%, and it has 30%, and it has 10%. Then, let's say this one is now against the current CEO. So he wants to take control of this company. So this is hostile. So I'm going to use the red one. 30%. And then, from the point of view of this controlling shareholder, if you want to keep your position, then the easiest way is to get a friendship with this fund. And then you can have 60% and you can continue your role in this company. However, if Fund A turns and if it wants to be friend with this guy, then you will lose your job at the shareholders meeting. So this is very serious concern. So you need to be more friendlier to the fund manager, right? However, this situation can change when you have dual class shares. So now say, although the controlling shareholder has only 100 shares, his shares are, for each of his share, it has 10 votes. Then, if you calculate the votes that you have, it is 100 times 10, so you have 1,000 votes. However, the rest of the shareholders have the single share, single vote, so it has 500, and it has 300, and it has 100. So in total, you have 1,900 votes. So this is number of shares. So the number of shares do not change. However, the actual votes that this company can have in the shareholders meeting is actually 1,900. And then 1,000 over 1,900, this is 52% approximately. So this is 52.6%. And that means the rest in aggregate is 47.3%. So therefore, in these situations, you don't need to coordinate with the other institutional investor. By taking your own votes, you can have the majority of the voting power, so you can appoint yourself as the CEO. So you can keep your position and you can keep controlling the company. So you don't need any other's help to protect this company. So this is the power of the dual class shares. So let me go back to my original argument. So again, I'm emphasizing this a lot. So again, mergers and acquisitions, they are good. They are, in general, they result in better situations. However, by allowing the dual class shares, you can practically protect your company from hostile takeover. So actually, for this company, there would be no acquisitions or merger because it is impossible. It will be only possible if the controlling shareholder give up and he willingly sell his shares to others. However, it does not happen in reality. So there is no merger or acquisition. So this is bad situation. It will help the controlling shareholder. However, it may not be good idea for the fund manager or other shareholders such as us. Because in these situations, they need to seek out a good relationship, so they will do better, right? So in order to make this fund manager be my friend, maybe this manager will declare additional dividends, or maybe it will improve the company's performance. Maybe it will promise something more to the shareholders. However, if you don't have to look at the others, if you do not need any other help, then you don't have to take care about others. You can just do whatever you want. So this is not good for these general shareholders, so it will decrease the company's value. So this is the problem with the dual class shares. So there, before 2000, the only groups of the companies with the dual class shares in the United States, they are two. First, family businesses. The family businesses have a strong incentive to control the company because the grandfather should inherit his heritage to the father, and the father from father to son, son to the grandson. So this is the way how the family businesses work, right? So they want to protect themselves. So that's why they keep using dual class shares. And second, media enterprises, especially newspapers or the news reporters. So they want to be protected from outside threat because let's say there is a very, very bad company, and in this company the employees are in a bad condition, so they were harming the health of the employees. And there was one news reporter, and he searched this case, and he write down the news article regarding the condition of the employees in this company. And then maybe the owner of this bad company will be angry about the newspaper. So what he can do is to become the shareholder of the newspaper because the newspaper itself is a corporation. And by using his influence, he can change the articles, whatever he wants. So he may, in the editing team, the editor from now on, they are not going to go out these bad news for this company. So this is the way how the media enterprises are affected by outside factors. And therefore, for the media enterprises, they should be independently managed. By doing so, they can have a balanced point of views regarding the society, regarding the companies, regarding the economy, right? So the family businesses and the media enterprises, they were the only dual class shares before 2000. Of course, there are other dual class shares company. However, they lose the competition because in the free market, these companies have competitors. And if your company is run by bad managers, you cannot do better than your competitors, or you cannot do better than your rivals, so you exit the business. So naturally, there is a kind of natural selection. So these companies cannot survive because you need to be better to win your competition in your market. Without this, maybe you will lose it or your shareholders will leave the company. So that's why the dual class shares were almost extinguished. So they were extinct, and only the family businesses or the media enterprises were using this kind of dual class share structure. However, the things have changed forever and all. In 2004, when Google went public in 2004. So the two important figures in the Google, they are Larry Page and Sergey Brin. So they founded the Google in about 1998, and they together, actually there were three. They managed the company together for about 6 years, and they become the leading company in the searching engine services. And they had their IPO. But, as you can guess, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, these two guys have engineering background. They are not their major was not economics. Their major was not business administration. So they are, we can say that, they are nerds. They are geeks. They don't like math. They don't like the money, but they like technology. They like computers, right? So at the time of their IPO, they thought themselves, because they believed that Wall Street is bad. Wall Street guys, we cannot trust him. But in the IPO process, what actually happens is that they lose the control. So the core, the fundamental of the IPO, before the IPO and after the IPO, the shareholder composition changes. So before the IPO, the founder, they have 100% shares. Of course, there are some venture capitalists, the initial investors, but after the IPO, their ownership shrink. They dilute the ownership and they make a lot of new shares and they sell the shares to the investors. So they are outside investors. They have about 80% and only founders have about 20% or 10%. So it means that if possible, if there is a leading ones among the investors, and if they can coordinate, they can kick these founders out of the company. So actually, this is a very bad result from the founding members of the company because they did whatever they can do for this company and now they are enjoying their success, but now they are kicked. They lose their job. They cannot continue the managing of this company. So this is a very bad thing for these founders. So they chose the dual class shares. So actually, indeed, in the Google's IPO, each of them only had 15% of the shares in the in the sense of the number of shares. So they have 30%. However, their voting power is actually 60% because they have superior shares with 10 votes per share. So they were able to keep managing the company still today. So they are influencing the new CEO behind the scene. So the success of the Google created a lot of attention from other venture companies. Because from the venture founders' point of view, IPO is good, at the same time it is bad because it provides an opportunity to become rich, but at the same time, once you do IPO, this company is not anymore yours. So you want to keep control managing the company. And Facebook, now Meta, they follow the strategy. The Lyft, which was the competitor of the Uber, they also had the dual class shares, and the Groupon and other similar companies had adopted the dual class shares in their company. So we have a traditional point of view, that more classical point of view, that dual class shares are bad. But now, from the Google's experience, now we see that for the specific companies, such as venture firms, there could be some good for the dual class shares. Then our job, our role is to get the advantages of the dual class shares, but to limit the disadvantages. So we want to get the good things together. So the resolution is the sunset provision. The sunset provision is a general term. It can be applied to any kind of legal document. So this is something giving some conditions for the legal documents. So once specific conditions are met, the effect will be eliminated. So in the sense of the dual class shares, the dual class shares power giving 10 votes will be eliminated if specific conditions are met. So by doing so, we can have the advantages of the dual class shares, but at the same time, we can reduce the potential disadvantages for the rest of the time. And I'm actually actively working on this. So I manually searched all IPOs from the 1996 to 2020 in the United States, and I found three major sunset types. The first one is a transfer-based sunset. This is if the founder sells her share, then it becomes an ordinary common shares. So it now has only one vote per share. So this is a very intuitive because it is important for the founder. So it is good for the founder to keep control. However, for the other general executives, it is no longer good. So if the founders want to exit this company, then we can utilize the transfer sunset so that it becomes a general structure. And second, we can rely on the time. Specifically, usually we use the time from the IPO. So it is often found that many companies adopt after 5 years from the completion of this IPO, the shares will become one vote per shares. So by specifying the timeline, it can give some incentives for the founding members when the company needs to grow, and when it becomes mature, we can eliminate the structure so that shareholders can get the benefit. So this is another way. And the third one is more technical. So this one is death or incapacity based sunset. So let's say there is a controlling shareholder which effectively have 52% of the voting power. And suddenly, today, he had a car accident and now he is in the hospital in coma. So he cannot wake up, but he is not technically dead. Then, still he has the right. So, every important decisions of the company should be made by him. However, he cannot come to business. So this is trouble. So in that case, we can eliminate the dual class shares and convert it into a normal ones so that others can have a shareholders meeting and they can appoint a new CEO. So that's the incapacity based sunset. So Korea is often regarded as emerging economies or growing economies because generally Korea has been the follower of the European countries and the United States. So the benefit of following is that if you lead the line, then you have to make some decisions and maybe you will suffer from the trials and errors. So you may make some bad decisions if you are leading one, if you are experiencing some events which were not in the history before. However, as the follower, we can check and we can learn from others' experience. So this is a way that Korea was fastly evolving into one of the leading countries in the world. And we learned from the lessons of the United States and other European countries. So when we made our constitutional law and other laws regarding the corporations, companies, and the business and the economy, we learned from them and we strongly had the rule, one share, one vote rule. Because generally, we learned from the history that the dual class shares are bad. So we had a strong commercial act ruling that in Korea, every company should have one share, one vote principle. However, recently we also saw the rises of the venture companies such as Google. And nowadays, for the fourth generational industrial revolution, it is important to have more venture firms and more startups, because if you look at the leading companies in the United States, they are all technical based companies. So they are Google, Amazon, Tesla, Apple. So they are all tech based companies, and they are not from the old money. They are from the founders. They are from the entrepreneurs, right? So every country around the world has a specific destination. They want to increase, they want to boost the foundation of the new companies every day. And Korea is one of them. So we try to accept the benefit of the dual class shares. So we changed our law. So in last year, we amended in the Congress, we amended the Act on the venture businesses. And according to the new law, now in Korea, the venture founders can have dual class shares for their companies. So they can have 10 votes per share only for the founders. And at the same time, to alleviate these concerns that generally M&A is good and the dual class share is bad, we also adopted the mandatory time-based sunset. So according to the law, the venture company can have the dual class shares only up to 10 years. And after the 10 years from its beginning, it has to eliminate the dual class shares. So this is the new changes in our society, and it may help you understand the situation going on outside the school. So I wanted to explain about this. Okay, golden parachutes. This is not that important, but parachutes, they are used when you escape, right? When the plane is falling, or when you are for the military purposes. So the parachutes are for the escaping the planes. So the golden parachutes, they are in golden color. So these are money. So parachutes, these golden parachutes help the existing CEOs and other executives to escape the company when there is a hostile takeover. So they often have some contracts that if they are fired due to the change of the control, then they are going to be compensated 3 times, 5 times larger than their usual salary. So this is a big money. So maybe it can help to protect the company, because the outsiders may be concerned about large compensation they have to make, so they are not going to initiate the M&A. Or actually it may facilitate the M&As, because outsiders will think, okay, money can solve this problem. Actually, it is easy if you can do it with your money, right? So maybe it can help to persuade the existing managers. So I'm not sure whether this is a effective measures to protect your company, but at least for the existing managers, this can be some kind of insurance. And let me talk about the proactive ways. So far I talked about some preemptive strategies, so preparing before it comes. But now, if you have a real existing threat, then maybe you can avoid the problem by using the greenmail. So there is a term, blackmail. So the blackmail is to persuade or to let someone to do whatever you want by threatening, right? And if you think about the color of the money, the US dollar, I forgot to bring my wallet, but I often have a $2 note in my wallet, and it is green. So green mail is the combination of the color green, which is coming from the dollar, and the black mail, which is threatening or persuading. So the green mail is paying a lot of money so that the counterparty can change his idea about having M&A. So it is bribery to the acquiring company. Stop it. Just leave it. I'm going to give you my money. So this is often used with the standstill agreement. So you have to keep your words. So please do not visit anymore for at least 3 years. So this is kind of standstill agreement. Actually, because some companies really indeed do green mail and standstill agreement, there are some people try to find out some advantages from out of it. So especially the hedge funds. So hedge funds, they are institutional investors, and their strategy is not limited. They need to make money whatever they do. So they are going to have a lot of different colors of the strategies to make some money, and some of them try to make some money by threatening the managers. So they approaches a company and they are going to threat. If you do not give me the green mail, I'm going to acquire your company and I'm going to fire you. And then with the threat, the manager may pay out a lot of premium. So it will be very happy for the fund managers. So this can be a strategy relying on the existence of the green mail. And last one, white knight and white squires. So white knight is so in Korea when you drink with your friends, and if you are persuaded by your friends to drink another cup of the alcohol, then maybe someone can help you, and this is a black knight. And similarly, the white knight is your friend to help you. So the white knights or the white squire, they are third parties, the shareholders of this company, but who is with you. So against the hostile takeover, you are side each other by side, so you can be protected by your friends.